Hello and welcome to What's Next. It's the Indy NXT Oval Series. We've got carnage on the backstretch here, but we are from Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. We're back home again in Indiana on a less traditional venue here for most fans of IndyCar. However, this is a venue that's played host to a number of other races up and down feeder series ladders, both on the IndyCar side of things as well as NASCAR. And it's a classic venue in its own right, Sophie, as you well know.
For sure, if you are familiar at all with the Indy ladder, obviously the smaller Indy ladder cars really can use the big track. So instead they come here to Indianapolis Raceway Park. Think of it kind of like a shrunk down Milwaukee, Jacob. Very flat, but also very short. And we got a big field today, Jacob. 23 Dallara IL-15s. Pretty sure lap traffic's going to be a factor tonight.
Yeah, big spread on the I ratings as well. Not that that's necessarily indicative of pace, as I well know. The likes of USF Pro 2000 champion Max Taylor has an oval I rating sub 1,000. He's just as fast as anyone. So we're going to get out here and qualify. We're going to follow along with Frisky Frankie for his qualifying run here. He's going to get up high on the boards here for the outlap here and work his way down the front straightaway. We'll hop on board with him as he heads off into turns 1 and 2. Ripping right along the dashed line on the upper end of the track here. And the big thing that's going to play a factor in this race here tonight is who's able to make these higher lanes of the track work consistently and staying out of that outside wall.
Yes, Jacob, you're going to want to try and carry as much speed as possible through these flat banked corners. Despite the fact that this is a daytime race, track temperature isn't too particularly high. It's only around 23 degrees Celsius. That's roughly like mid 70s. It's a fairly cold track. So it's going to be hard to get those Firestone tires up the temperature, Jacob.
Yeah, we see Frankie end his qualifying run. Currently sits 4th on the board. Familiar names at the front of the field with the likes of Dylan Vilashinsky, Chris Fletcher, and Jason Goodman ahead of him. Taylor Thurman rounding out the top 5 as it stands. Still a number of cars left to take time here. Among them, Yari Brubaker. He's in chat telling us that he loves the intro guitar riff that we've got in our little intro video. Good to see Yari out here again. We'll hope he's able to get a good run here from the Raceway Park here in Indianapolis. Gone through a number of sponsor changes over the years. You might remember when O'Reilly sponsored the facility at a point in time, but now it's under the Lucas Oil banner. Not the only Lucas Oil track, even in iRacing with the Lucas Oil name, the other being the dirt oval and dirt off-road track that was just added this season for 2026 Season 1 here on the sim. So certainly getting their fingers in many a pie, the Lucas Oil brand, but they've got themselves quite a nice track here in Indiana, and we're going to have ourselves a good race here nonetheless. I want to thank everybody for tuning in kind of in the midway point from the Talladega doubleheader that we've got going on with the IndyCar Oval Fix Series tonight. Obviously, the racing there much more chaotic, many more cars much closer together, and you're basically playing the roulette wheel there. Not as much gambling going on here tonight, but we're gonna get ourselves a good one.
For sure, Jacob. This is less of a game of Russian roulette with cars. It's a little bit more of a sure thing in terms of whether or not you'll finish, as long as you're able to keep the car pointed in the right direction, not take too much unreasonable risk. You'll be there in the end, versus Talladega, where you're at the mercy of everyone else and netcode.
Yeah, certainly big risks to be had on the high banks out there in Alabama, but we're going to play it a bit more tame here from the short track side of things. First daytime race we have on one of these more traditional short track ovals this season. Of course, the last round we had on a track sub 1 mile without too much banking, because we did go to the old scan of Iowa just a couple weeks ago. Would have been that night race from Myrtle Beach. Of course, Dylan Vilashinsky was the winner there after having to claw his way back to the front following a slide off turn number 2. We'll see if any errors befall him once again here tonight. Looks like we're getting to the closing stages of qualifying, just over a minute left in the session. We'll see if anybody's going to stick up a time here late, or if we've got kind of what we've got in terms of the starting lineup. I imagine that the qualifying here is going to be very, very important, especially given the way that the track and the setup is loaded in this week, following a bit of testing I had done to get an idea of how this track would run this week, as I don't imagine we're going to see a lot of those really, really awkward snap oversteer moments we've seen on a number of tracks, particularly the more heavily banked ones. Of course, this track relatively flat, making that comparison to Milwaukee much more apt. So going to be interesting to see who can make the lanes work tonight.
For sure, Jacob. And one thing I do want to highlight, Ryan A. Brown, our only other winner, our winner at Iowa, every other round dominated by Dylan Vilashinsky. Ryan A. Brown is lunging towards the back of the pack tonight. Currently has the 4th slowest time of those who have set a time so far. Be interesting to see if Ryan Brown is able to carve his way through this field. I'm sure he is looking forward to doing that.
Well, let's not forget, he went on quite a tear in our Phoenix race earlier this season as qualifying comes to a conclusion here. He was able to work through the field there. I can't imagine it'd be necessarily impossible for him to do the same here. Never an entire indication of overall pace here, simply in the qualifying portion of the session. But we're going to get to the grid here, and we will get that starting lineup rolling. Get the music queued up, and here we go. Dylan Vilashinsky from the pole once more, 1:17.345. He'll be lined up next to Chris Fletcher this evening in the 2nd spot. You've got Indy Kirchenbauer, the prodigy, lining up 3rd, reigning series champion, alongside Jason Goodman in the 4th spot. Frank Wynn, Frisky Frankie, he's back for more here tonight. He'll line up in the 5th spot in the number 2. Jesse Francisco will be 6th in the number 12 ahead of Greg Toole. Luke E. Reed, fresh off a top 10 in the Votive Racing League 2nd round from Charlotte, will line up 8th ahead of Taylor Thurman. Taylor Thurman's fan club in the chat, strong as ever. Bill J. Walker will line up 10th, rounding out the top 10. Crash Neon will line up 11th alongside Chad Reeves in 12th. Christopher Shields will line up 13th alongside John Corwin. Good to see John back out here once again. Shane Holstein will line up in 15th alongside Charles Yancey in the 16th spot. Ryan A. Brown going from deep in the field, our only winner besides Dylan Vilashinsky in the series so far this season. From Iowa, he'll line up 17th. Jeffrey Kempf will be 18th, just ahead of Yari Brubaker in the 19th spot. Yari's going to have to make his way forward through the field here tonight. Colby Cups will round out the top 20, and we've got 3 more cars yet to get through, with the likes of Cameron Clark in 21st. He's around in the pit lane. Not a good start. That car's missing the front nose cone, or the front wing. Not sure what happened here. Bryce Kleindienst will be 22nd, and then Jake Brown will be 23rd in the 23 machine here tonight. Strength of field around 2,300 here from the Raceway Park, and we've got the lights out on the pace car. We have one more circulation round.
Cameron Clark apparently looped it trying to get going during the formation lap and was unable to take repairs. They're currently circulating without that nose cone, trying to catch back up to the tail end of the field.
23 drivers ready to go. Everybody is here. They're heading off of turn number 4, and we're going to get ready to go here from IRP. Vilashinsky gets control of the field. He's going to opt to launch right here, and we're under green.
Green flag, green flag.
Vilashinsky jumps into the lead. You see some 2-wide action back further in the field. But for the most part, it's single file down through the top 5.
Yeah, field files out single file relatively quickly here. We've got the likes of Jason Goodman trying to get on the back of Indy Kirchenbauer. That's kind of the closest bout near the front here. File that along here on the cameras. We've got cars still trying to get alongside 2 wide deeper in the field. I believe that's going to be Taylor Thurman and Bill J. Walker going side by side. We'll hop to this battle kind of brewing at the back half of the top 10 here as cars are jockeying for position. Number of drivers trying to explore those lower couple lanes, particularly through the centers of the corners here, as we're seeing people start to migrate further and further up now. Oh, we got a car around.
The yellow flag is out.
Yep, that looks to be
Ryan Brown.
Ryan Brown. Looks like he just had a little over enthusiastic on the loud pedal there, Jacob. And just a simple little skid. No damage to the number 6 machine, but
Yeah, working that low lane off
definitely
too. Around he'll go. Maybe just a little too much wheel and pedal at the same time.
Yep, and definitely going to be putting a little extra heat into those Firestone tires with that slide. There is no additional set of tires, so what Ryan Brown has right now, the tires he just skidded, are what he's going to have to carry himself the rest of the race. So that's going to make climbing up through this pack a little bit more difficult, Jacob.
Yeah, and that certainly is a distinction we have compared to last season, in which we had essentially unlimited tires going through the course of last season. A big change for this season was the removal of those additional tire sets to kind of bring it more in line with what we see in the real-world Indy NXT Series. Obviously, no live pit stops really take place in that series unless there's a tire failure or some other massive incident resulting in some sort of damage typically. So certainly difficult for these drivers to have to manage one set of tires from the drop of the green all the way to the end, particularly on these very, very abrasive, flat, short tracks that we're going to see in spades over the course of this series' run. So lights are still on the pace car. We're circulating under yellow here, working lap 7. We'll get on to lap 8, and I believe the lights will come out at that time. We'll confirm that here shortly as the field rounds turns 3 and 4 here. So we've got...
right now, wanted to highlight, right now, biggest mover appears to be Jari Brubaker, going from 19th up to 15th. That's 4 positions gained for him. But for the most part, it's been fairly stable, Jacob.
Yeah, and that's not too surprising if you've raced here from the Raceway Park before. Very difficult to mount charges, particularly on those lower lanes. You almost have to kind of send it all the way from the bottom and throw kind of a bit of a slider line through the corner to try to make moves stick. You can see potentially a number of drivers make moves later on in the going as tires start to fall away if they've saved their stuff. So, pace car is off. Coming into turn number 3, puts field back in Vilashinsky's hands. We'll see what he opts to do here on the restart. He's going to go nice and early this time.
Green flag, green flag.
As we see Indy Kirkenbauer looking underneath Chris Fletcher, not quite able to do it. Fletcher in that striking orange machine.
Kirchenbauer looking to the inside there, was very frustrated following last night's Road Series race from Interlagos, was really trying to lock in that final step of the podium last night, fell just short in that one. He's looking to try to move up the field. I know how much he wanted to try to come out here and win and show that he's still got it up against the dominant force in Dylan Vilashinsky as Vilashinsky goes purple 17.414.
Yeah, expect the next couple of laps to be the fastest run of the race, and then it should start to fall off as these Firestones go from being cold to hot to start to eventually wear down, Jacob. But with the track temps the way they are, I don't expect much fall off.
The yellow flag is out.
Oh, yellow flag on the speedway. Big
Ooh.
mess it looks like.
Christopher Shields has opted to tow his vehicle. He's missing both wings off this Guinness IL-15. We'll have to see what happened to Mr. Shields here so we get the replay caught up to it. Ooh. All right, so we're going to get coming through turns 3 and 4 here. Got the likes of the 17 of Jeffrey Kempf on the inside here. It's going to be the 15 of Jason Holstein on the outside here, and they're going to make contact between Kempf and Shields, and that's going to send Kempf around alongside Shields. Shields backing it into the inside wall. We'll see what happens to Jeffrey here. He might keep it out of the wall here. Don't think he makes contact with anything, so he may be good to go. Just a big slide on those Firestones, and that's not going to help throughout this race, as we sided with Ryan Brown just moments ago.
Yeah, as we saw here, Kemp trying to use all of the track, trying to use more of the track than really was available there. Diving down onto the apron and then just coming all the way, like it was trying to do a slide job, but ultimately not clear of Shields. And Shields was already missing a side pod, so there was already contact there for Shields. So definitely not a good night for him.
Yeah, rough initial go of things here as we're yet to get to lap 15. 2 yellows so far. Not a ton of green flag running, which means that tire wear situation near the front of the field is only going to get easier as these drivers have to navigate under caution. Gives kind of a reset in the tire cycles, but that also can be difficult over times with having to recycle the heat into the tires over and over again. That could cause a bit of additional wear in its own right, so we'll see how that kind of changes the complication of this race should we continue to have a lot of these very quick yellows here early in the going. So back under pacing once again. The lights will be on the pace car still. We'll double check and see if those come off as we round turn number 4 here. Vilashinsky remains in control of the field ahead of Chris Fletcher. Indy Kirchenbauer, the reigning series champ, in 3rd. Jason Goodman runs 4th after starting near the front of the field. He stayed there so far. Jesse Francisco, Frank Wynn, Frisky Frankie, Luke Reed, Greg Toole, Bill Walker, Taylor Thurman round out the top 10. Crash Dion, Chad Reeves, Charles Yancey, John Corwin, Yarby Brubaker, Shane Holstein, Ryan A. Brown, Colby Cups, Jake Brown, Bryce Klinzins, and Jeffrey Kemp are the last of the cars on the lead lap. 21 of 23 on the lead lap. We're getting back under green here. Field in control of Dylan Vilashinsky once more. He's going to round off turn number 4 here, and he's going to go right about there.
He's holding it late this time. And there he goes, finally launching. Green flag is in the air.
Opting to wait kind of towards the more traditional NASCAR restart zone this time. Of course, this track's played host to the NASCAR Truck Series in recent years, so they do have a proper painted restart zone here now. Vilashinsky gets a solid jump. The big thing I want to see is if over the course of a longer run we start to see cars get bunched back closer together here. The restarts are kind of big opportunities to build up a sizable gap between each other. We see it between Fletcher and Kirchenbauer. See that the likes between about Francisco and Wynn a bit further back. There's about a 3/10 to half a second gap there. So it's a big opportunity for drivers to build up big gaps here early, but those tend to dwindle as runs wear on if the cars behind are able to start to make some momentum.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight Taylor Thurman managed to get around Bill Walker, moved Taylor Thurman up to the 9th place position.
We'll hop back to Thurman as he's going to look to the inside of Greg Toole for the 8th spot. Thurman's on the move. He's not going to rest quietly here in the opening stages. So once this race gets rolling here, he's going to make moves as quick as he can to the inside of Luke Reed now.
Luke Reed just doing 2 into 1. Taylor Thurman not messing around. He wants to get to the front. His next target's going to be Frank DeWin, and DeWin looks like he may have touched the wall there off of 2.
Yeah, the walls on this track very, very abruptly flat, as you'll see. We'll get off of turn 4 here. Let's actually hop on board with Thurman here as he starts to hunt down Frank Wynn ahead of him now. You'll see very heavy steering input from the driver of the number 8 here. Very much have to pitch this car very hard through these very, very long turns around Lucas Oil Raceway Park here. One thing we're immediately noticing is very small amounts of brake usage on either end of the track. You kind of see that trace light up just a little bit coming through 3 and 4, but otherwise almost non-existent for Thurman here as he hunts down Frank Wynn for the 6th spot. Field is starting to close in on each other. Have noticed that Indy Kirchenbauer has fallen well off of Chris Fletcher now. Must have had a big moment at some point through this stint here as we're working a third of the way through the 75 laps here tonight.
The thing I want to highlight is currently Dylan Vilashinsky is working his way through lap traffic. Just got around the lap car of Jake Brown, and now currently working on Colby Cups. And if Vilashinsky can clear him, then it's going to be another 3 seconds before it's all over Jeffrey Krempt, who is just involved in that last caution.
Yeah, and what I've noticed here is this has given Chris Fletcher an opportunity to maybe start to reel in just a little bit on Vilashinsky. He's going to have a bit of a slide off the 2 there, but he's stayed within 3/10 so far. We'll see if that gap maintains here as Vilashinsky's cleared the lap cars now. It doesn't appear that may be the case at the moment, but things could change very quickly in a hurry around these short tracks.
Yeah, and again, if you are one of these cars going a lap down, you might fight Vilashinsky more than you would, say, in an IndyCar race, Jacob, because there is no pit strategy here. It's not like you're going to find yourself running just behind the leader and they're going to duck off to get tires and you could go and get the wave around. Vilashinsky's not going to pit. Oh, caution is out!
Just ahead of the leaders.
Front spins!
Kemp's spun 90 degrees parallel, or perpendicular rather, to the racing surface. Drivers are having to very quickly evasive maneuver off the corner here. We'll have to see what happened to Jeffrey off the corner here, see if it was a similar situation that we saw with Ryan Brown moments ago. Believe that car's got some damage on it, so heavy contact for Kemp.
Driving. Very much rear wheel not looking too pleased.
So we've got Kemp. He hits the apron on the entry to turn 1. He's kind of hooked all the way around the bottom here, and it's just going to snap on him. I think he grabbed too much of that apron at speed. That's going to send his car back into the outside wall, likely giving him some sort of rear-end suspension damage. And Fletcher and Vilashinsky, props to them. You could see them basically Tokyo drifting alongside a number of these other cars trying to avoid Kemp getting off turn number 2 here. Certainly not where you want to be.
Yeah, very much a heart-and-mouth moment for both of our leaders. Never a fun feeling when you're going through lap traffic. I have lost many an oval race because the lapped car spun directly in front of me.
Yeah, and that's the thing with oval racing in particular, right, is you've got cars essentially around the whole track at all times. There's not really a clear spot of just empty space typically for a long period of time, especially in instances where the gap from the front to the back of the field is much smaller, and we see that a lot more on these shorter tracks, like a Lucas Oil, like we saw at Myrtle Beach. Very, very quick, and it's a lot like when you get to those higher speeds on the big tracks of the IndyCar, right? The closing rate is just so fast, and when you shrink that down to, you know, these 3/4, I guess this is a little under 3/4 of a mile track here, that only becomes harder and harder to manage as we're lapping around 17 seconds here from the Raceway Park.
Yeah, and we're approaching halfway in this race. We've had 3 cautions so far. And I don't know that those cautions are going to let up, Jacob. We've seen a lot of hard racing in the mid-pack, but for the most part, it's been single-car accidents other than that second caution. Jared Corey, I believe, chimed into chat saying single split shenanigans, and that is very much what we're seeing here right now, Jacob.
Well, let's not discount that either, right? There's the challenge that these drivers at the front having to maintain pace with the other drivers at the front here, and then there's, you know, maybe guys that are just getting their feet wet in the car, getting a feel for it towards the back end of the field. And as we've cited well in full force, even drivers that we've seen like a Vilashinsky, we only saw it just a couple weeks ago, just over push the car through 3 and 4 at Iowa and around he went. So it's not all that difficult or all that uncommon to see some of these drivers have a big struggle, particularly early in the going in these oval races in particular. But the pace car is going to peel off. Vilashinsky will get control of the field once more.
Yes, and we'll see how long it takes him to launch this time. Seems to be playing the unpredictable game. He goes, and green flag is going to be in the air. We are green once again, working lap number 35 of 75.
And I'm seeing Frisky Frankie looking to the inside of Jesse Francisco off of turn number 2 here. He got a good jump on the restart here, not able to make the move just yet.
There's some chaos in the back. Colby Cups caught the wall, and there was almost 4 wide at one moment.
And we'll catch back to Cups here. They're going 2 and 3 wide towards the back of the field here. Cups is working the outer lanes. He's trying to stay off the cars to his inside. He might have some damage from the consecutive wall contacts here.
Caution, yellow flag.
Oh, yellow is out. Yellow, yellow, yellow. Chad Reeves and Ryan Brown have contact there and sends Reeves into the back, into the outside wall. Now Reeves is a wingless warrior. And once again, the field is slowed behind the pace car.
Yeah, we'll get the replay camera out to see what happened exactly to Mr. Reeves here. Off turn 2 here. See Reeves start to travel down. You've got Ryan Brown to the inside here. They're going to head down into turn number 3. And it looks like right front to left rear and around Chad Reeves is going to go. Tough break for the driver of the 16. That's likely going to be night done for him, assuming the damage is as severe as it looks, given the entire rear wing is missing off that IL-15.
Yeah, very much a wingless warrior. Hopefully it's just the rear wing and it can be repaired quickly and he can find himself back out there, but that was quite a hard bit of contact.
He's still circulating without that rear wing, so we'll see if he comes down the pit lane. Well, he doesn't have a meatball flag.
Correct, Jacob, and maybe he doesn't have the button mapped. It's a fairly standard thing to have mapped on the oval side, how often you can occasionally make wall contact, like in dirty air. But it's possible he's new to the car, hasn't had it mapped yet, and that number 16 machine, Chad just doesn't know. Doesn't know that is missing a rear wing. Unfortunately, if that is the case, he'll find out very quick.
Yeah, you definitely notice the lack of downforce on the back of the car when you head off into a corner and turn, and it just it kind of just goes around.
Yes, that's a case of when, not if, that car is going to go around. So hopefully, as the caution begins to end, as I believe. Lights are still on the pace car, but hopefully someone communicates to Chad they are missing a wing. How do you maintain your focus, Jacob? And when you have all these cautions, it's very much been a stop-start kind of race. How do you maintain your focus, Jacob? Both you and I, we've raced the IndyCar. We've raced a lot of these machines and races that have cautions. How do you keep your focus?
Well, I think the approach is so much more different on these short tracks too, right? Because it takes a couple laps to truly build a rhythm around one of these tracks, right? You see it. We especially saw it at the likes of Myrtle Beach, where it took a good amount of time for drivers to really find their footing, particularly early in the going. And that's just one of these struggles that you get when you're clicking off lap times, or you've got maybe another 10 seconds to think about how you're going to tackle the next one. So it's kind of just hitting the old reset button and being ready to build that rhythm back up.
Speaking of building back the rhythm, the pace car is off. Chad Reeves did pit to get his rear wing repaired. Field's in the hand of Wylashinsky. Wylashinsky is waiting. He launches now at that white line off of 4. And we're racing once more.
Yeah, Wylashinsky with another solid jump. You know who I'm seeing that's gotten another solid jump is Frank Wynn back in the 6th spot. He's right over on the back of Francisco again. Kind of in the thick of it. He's got Taylor Thurman hunting him down still. We saw Thurman's hard charge on that relatively longer green flag stick compared to what we've had the bulk of the night tonight. We'll see if these drivers kind of working their way to the bottom half of the top 10 here are able to start mounting their charge forward.
For sure, it seems to me that everyone's working the middle line there in the back of the pack. But you do see some variation. You see Wylashinsky running a little bit lower than Chris Fletcher.
got Frankie looking to the inside on Francisco off of 4 there. Not able to get quite alongside enough to stay alongside down the front stretch here. Closest battle on the track as it stands. Pretty much everybody else is separated by about a half a second from one another. So we'll see if this turns into a side-by-side battle once more as Wylashinsky, fastest lap of the race, 17.226.
Yeah, it's really hard to make a pass here because ultimately the higher line is where everyone seems to want to run. And so they're going to have the momentum off the corner. And so it's just hard to build enough of a run that you're really able to go alongside.
Yeah, and that's ultimately always been a concern with with a number of tracks on the schedule, is just how hard is it to make moves on the inner grooves of the track, as the top line tends to be where you're fastest because you're able to kind of hold as much corner speed as possible with how much downforce we have in these Dallara IL-15s. And ultimately, that seems to be what we're seeing here tonight, is that top lane is just so difficult to surmount the further down on the track you go.
For sure, and we start to see that the front 3 are kind of spreading out. It seems to be about a 7/10 of a second gap between Dylan Wylashinsky, Chris Fletcher, and Indy Kirkwood. Oh, another caution on the speedway. Chad Reeves.
We just caught Reeves heading to the inside wall there as we got the camera to him. We'll see what happened to Chad here. He's 2 laps down out here with a new rear wing. We'll see what happened to him.
For sure. And it looks like he was racing with Cup was racing with Chad Reeves. They look to be on the same lap. And Reeves just dove really down to the bottom, had too much wheel, too much loud pedal.
Yeah, kind of that white line, the dashed white line on that inside lane there. Just grabbed too much pedal, too much wheel at the same time, and around he goes. It's what we've seen on a number of occasions in this car, and a number of times tonight already with the likes of Reeves and Brown both going around off turn 2, just being too aggressive on that bottom lane. Very easy to do, to get too much rear tire spin going on coming through the corner there on those lower lanes.
Yes, and it looks like with that wall contact, Reeves is going to be pitting once more. Shame, it doesn't look like he held his brakes. Possibly could have kept that off the wall, but unfortunately it might be night done for Chad Reeves.
Now we're working into the final third of the race here. Ultimately, drivers looking to kind of close this one out as soon as they can. We'll see when the pace car lights go out and we get control back of the field in the hands of Dylan Wylashinsky. He's led every lap so far from the pole. Not an uncommon sight here in Indy NXT competition, particularly in this season, as he's only dropped 1 race as the winner. That, of course, going to Ryan Brown from Iowa. And we'll see if anything else can happen here. You know, we've seen it a couple times with cars being able to maybe catch somebody out on a restart, get alongside them, maybe make a move early. But once the field kind of gets into a rhythm, it's very difficult to pass here tonight.
For sure, it seems to me that whoever can time the restart the best is ultimately going to have the, pardon my use of the same word in a sentence twice, but is going to have the best chance of success. If I was Wylashinsky, I would be definitely breaking up the rhythm at which I launch. It seems Wylashinsky at the beginning of this race was launching very early. It's now transitioned to launching very late. If I was a Chris Fletcher and Indy Kirchenbauer, I'd probably be anticipating the late at this point. But hopefully, or if you're a Wylashinsky fan, he breaks up that pattern. Otherwise, maybe someone manages to get the jump on him.
Yeah, lights will come out on the pace car here. That unpredictability with the launches as the leader is kind of one of the tools you've got in your back pocket, particularly with the single file ones when we don't have the likes of a NASCAR style restart zone. It's kind of once the pace car is fully in the pit lane, you're given as much opportunity to get on the loud pedal and go, as long as you make a decisive launch effort. So lights are out on the pace car. Wylashinsky gets control of the field heading into turn number 3 here, and we'll see what he opts to do this time around.
And he goes a little bit earlier this time before those lines in turn number 4. We are working lap 55 of 75 here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. If you are enjoying the Indy Next coverage here, make sure you click that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified of all P1 broadcasting content out there.
Yeah, of course, we've got a number of races still left to go here tonight. Shortly, the second of the two doubleheader races from Talladega will start. That'll be in about 10 minutes' time, alongside Mark Murphy with his call of round 3 of the Area 51.
Oh, Taylor Thurman! Taylor Thurman made a big send on the 11-car Greg Toole, and Greg Toole is going to fall back. Crash Neon also working their way around, and Toole is in the wall.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt, Jacob.
No, you're good. Toole. Ryan Brown bangs wheels with Luke Reed, sends Luke Reed into the outside wall just briefly there. Not sure if there was heavy contact there, but ultimately wheel banging going on throughout the bottom portion of this top 10 here. And let's talk Ryan Brown here. He had to work his way back up through the field after that early incident. He's worked his way back up to 9th here. If we look, he's been as low as 21st on the night. He's back inside the top 10, working through the 9th position now.
Oh, and he just did not really give Greg Toole much space there on the high side, and Greg Toole is not happy about it. But I do want to, and it looks like Greg Toole has front wing damage as you see him tumble down the order. Tough break for the American.
Yeah, Toole will fall rapidly down the order here.
Back to Ryan Brown, the German driver here. He started in the back of the pack and then had that spin and has then come back further to be where he currently is. He started 17th, Jacob. That is 8 positions gained. And obviously he lost a bunch with that first caution, so he is definitely figured out Indianapolis Raceway Park.
I think the big thing that we've seen out of him that we might not have seen out of a number of other drivers here tonight is a very, very aggressive approach to those lower lanes, as we see Crash Neon and Taylor Thurman going for it for the 7th spot.
Yeah, Neon, Thurman has it, Neon wants it, and Neon sending it deep. Looks like Thurman had a little bit of a wiggle, and Neon just about clears. Definitely clears him into 3 and 4. Move Neon up to 7th, Thurman back to 8th.
Thurman's going to look back to the inside here off 2.
Yes, and then we also see lap car of Jake Brown going to be thrown into the mix, as well as Colby Copps. So this battle going to have to contend with lap traffic there on the low side, taking away lines. Yellow flag is out on the speedway.
Oh, big crash.
Oh, big junk.
I believe we saw Luke Reed involved with this one, amongst others. We'll see who all's involved in this one. We've got Bill Walker with no rear wing. We've got Bryce Clendon's missing a front wing.
Yeah, and it starts with Charles Yancey. Jacob, if you can focus on him. Seems he gets loose in the middle of one, clips ultimately 4 cars involved. He hits the wall, clips Bill Walker's, thank goodness for the halo there.
Yeah, very
and then
surprise snap, and then up and over goes Bill Walker. And then everybody just piles in.
Yeah, everyone piles in. And what I did want to highlight, I know a tragic end for Yancey, but he was climbing his way through the field. And he was having a solid run going, but unfortunately, tough end for that.
Yeah, and this will put us inside the final 10 laps. So likely going to be one more attempt at a restart here, maybe 2 if the yellow comes out quick enough here, but ultimately this race is going to get put back into Vilashinsky's hands on the coming restart here. We've got Vilashinsky leading over Fletcher, Kirchenbauer, that's stayed steady, with Goodman and Francisco rounding out that top 5. Frisky Frankie, he's been looking on every restart to try to make a move into the top 5 here. He runs in 6th. believe it's going to be Crash Neon in the 7th spot. Taylor Thurman runs 8th ahead of Ryan Brown. Jari Brubaker, he's worked his way from the back of the field to 10th. Let's give a shout out to Jari. Good to see him working his way through the field tonight. John Corwin in 11th. Luke Reed down to 12th, following a number of tumultuous events here this evening. Shane Holstein will be 13th ahead of Bryce Clendens. Greg Toole, after a number of rough breaks for him, he's 1 lap down in 15th. Bill Walker, Colby Cups, Jake Brown, Cameron Clark, and Chad Reeves all 1 or 2 laps down. Charles Yancey, Jeffrey Kempf, and Christopher Shields all out of the race this evening.
I do want to highlight, Bill Walker is still circulating. His IL-15 looks relatively unscathed right now, despite that flip, and he is going to carry on this race. Dallara sure knows how to build him, Jacob.
They certainly do over in Italy, but Vilashinsky knows how to drive him. He's at the front of the field here still. He's going to get control of the field, heading off into 3 and 4. He's going to pick a new spot to launch here for the restart. Kind of right in the middle for him.
Green flag, green flag.
Sure, he kind of kept that one late. Green flag is in the air. Just about 5-6 laps to go. Thurman looking on the inside of Ryan Brown, not quite able to get there. Neon looking at Frank DeWin, also not able to get there. Jari Brubaker, though, gets around the outside of Thurman, but looks like Thurman sends it in deep. Brubaker's got the momentum on the high side.
The yellow flag is out.
Yellow is out. Oh, and people are not happy about that.
Colby Cups once again in the wall, this time backwards. We saw him make contact with this wall a number of times this evening. We'll see what happened to Colby.
Yeah, it looks like Cameron Clark just drives in there, and it's unfortunately net code.
Yeah, Cups heads down into turn 1 here. Looks like, yeah, netcode contact between himself and the 20 of Cameron Clark, and that'll send Cups into the outside wall and end his night. And I'm not sure if we'll get another restart here or not. We might get a 1-lap shootout, but I'm not sure how much that's going to impact things, given the way that this race has gone so far, aside from maybe if there's a large incident that the lead lap cars need to avoid late in the going here.
No, unfortunately, no. I think the race might end under caution. Unfortunately, Jacob. Dylan Vilashinsky unchallenged from the get-go, it seems. Maybe a 1-lap shootout. The top 3 been relatively stable. Same thing with Jason Goodman. James Francisco managed to get around Frank Quinn. Frank Quinn still sitting in 6th, but Crash Neon climbed from 11th to 7th. That is a 4-position change. And then, of course, you have Ryan Brown going from 17th to 8th. That's 9 positions on the day. Jari Brubaker up 10. That's your biggest move of the race in that number 14 machine.
Yeah, we'll see if he can... Well, he's going to close this one out, right, because we're going to finish behind the pace car here. But solid effort from those drivers that work their way through the field, the likes of Jari and Crash Neon for sure. Ryan Brown, after some early whoops off of turn 2, he makes his way back inside the top 10. So it was definitely possible to work your way back up through the field. Just kind of needed to have the cards fall your way in a very caution-heavy race here from IRP.
For sure, Jacob. Definitely an action-packed race. It allows people to roll into much of the same thing at Talladega, it seems.
I think, well, the interesting thing is I believe the first race from Talladega tonight had one DNF of 24 cars, which is very, very impressive. A number of very hairy moments there, but we're around on the final lap here. White flag is in the air. Barney's waving it somewhere. We got Vilashinsky coming off turn 2. This isn't how we want to see these races end under yellow, but we end at the advertised distance, unlike some things in this world. So we'll round lap 75 here.
Just racing.
We may throw red flags late in the going to make sure it ends under green, but boy howdy, we're only going to do as many laps as we told you we'd be here for. Dylan Vilashinsky will win behind the pace car ahead of Chris Fletcher and Indy Kirchenbauer. We'll run you through the rest of the top 10 here as drivers start to work their way around the course. We'll slow the cameras down as we get to replay time. So it will be top 10 here tonight. Will be headed up by none other than Dylan Vilashinsky. He'll go 6 for 7 this season so far. Chris Fletcher will finish second ahead of Indy Kirchenbauer. Jason Goodman, Jesse Francisco, Frank Wynn, Crash Neon, Ryan Brown, Yari Brubaker, and Taylor Thurman, your top 10. We work our way further in. John Corwin, Luke Reed, Bryce Clindens will be 13th. Last car on the lead lap. Greg Toole, Bill Walker will be 14th and 15th. Cameron Clark, Chad Reeves, Jake Brown, Shane Holstein, Colby Cups will be the rest of the top 20. And then Charles Yancey, Jeffrey Kemp, and Christopher Shields will round out the field here from IRP. And we'll get to some drivers looking to talk through the tumultuous nature of getting through those many, many restarts here from the race this evening.
For sure, it was, other than that hairy moment with Kemp, I don't really think much in the way of action happened in the top 3. Most of the action, Jacob, was in the back of the pack and the mid pack.
Yeah, so we'll get thoughts and opinions from the drivers near the front of the field here. I'm sure Indy Kirchenbauer will come on in here very shortly. Unless, actually, I'm not sure. Actually, he might be trying to get to the Talladega race now that I think about it. He might have done the classic forfeit join. So we'll throw Indy's car up on the screen. Another podium here for him. Move on to Chris Fletcher as I see Chris has joined the waiting room. We'll get him on up here. Chris Fletcher, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Yeah, I got you, Jacob.
Well, you qualified at the front, and that seemed to be the key to the race here tonight. Kind of walk us through how difficult it was to get through all these restarts in a very caution-heavy race here tonight.
Yeah, the restarts, I was, I'd rather have just gone green there, to be honest. I don't think I had anything for Dylan. He was just getting through 1 and 2 a lot better than I was, but it was nice to get up there and qualify up front and just kind of stay up front on this one.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there was huge opportunities for any sort of passing opportunities further up the field. Just seemed like once the pace kind of settled in, drivers were kind of just riding around, clicking the laps off, waiting for the race to end. You have any other thoughts as to what you experienced out here on the track tonight, other than a lot of seeing in the back of that iRacing pace car?
Yeah, a lot of the iRacing pace car and a lot of the back of that green car. Kind of get tired of looking at the back of it, to be honest. But yeah, that's pretty much it for tonight. Just kind of follow the leader here and follow the pace car.
Well, Chris, nonetheless, solid finish here after starting at the front. You stayed there all night long. Friends, family, sponsors, anybody you want to shout out, floor is yours. We appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, of course. Thanks to my teammates, John Corwin and Dustin Wilgren, and then my kids and my fiance. And I'd like to announce to the world here that next week we'll be in Vegas and getting married on Friday. So it'll be nice to get that wrapped up and be able to call her my wife. So thanks, guys.
Well, that certainly sounds like it will be a wonderful time for everybody involved. Chris, appreciate you making this as part of your coming out party with that one. Have a good one. Go celebrate.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That'll do it for Chris. We'll get Indy on up here since he's made it on in. Not sure if maybe he missed the Talladega special, but Indy Kirchenbauer, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, you were looking for a strong qualifying effort here. Was strong, but not quite strong enough to put you at the front of the field here tonight. Kind of walk us through what you experienced throughout the race here tonight.
Yeah, I underdrove it a little bit too much in 1 and 2. I think I had 3 and 4 decent, but just my 1 and 2 was terrible. I knew I had the pace to get the pole. I just messed up. So the winds in this session were very, very high. So it was just like, it was 17 miles per hour southwest, I think, and that made turns 1 and 2 really difficult, and turns 3 and 4 feel really good. So that was interesting to do, but yeah, just not my best, but podium's a podium, and hopefully finally get that win at New Hampshire.
Yeah, certainly another solid finish for you. Probably looking forward on to the next one at New Hampshire. You know the drill, though, Indy. Friends, family, sponsors, anybody you want to shout out, floor is yours.
Yeah, I want to shout out Votive Racing, Taupe Soaps, and then my go-kart sponsors are BG Emery and Associates and Bayside Heating and Cooling. Make something on YouTube. Yeah, thank you guys for putting this on. Even though we may have not had the best turnout tonight, and yeah, it was still, I really like our IRP, and this is one I really wanted to win, and just screwed up my queue. So yeah, hopefully I'll be back better, and yeah, I'm just disappointed that it ended after the sign up open for the next IndyCar race, so I couldn't do the triple, but it's okay.
Yeah, unfortunate on that regard, and unfortunate we maybe didn't get quite as many drivers as we were hoping to see, but nonetheless, a very interesting race here from IRP. We thank you for coming out each and every week here, Indy. We'll catch you next time at New Hampshire.
Yep, thank you.
That'll do it for Indy, and we'll get the man, the myth, the legend, Dylan Vilashinsky. We'll get him his time. We'll pull him on up here. And here's Dylan. Dylan, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, I don't know who led more laps here tonight, the pace car or you, but it was one of the two that led all of them in one way or another. So kind of walk us through what you experienced having to get through each and every one of these restarts here as a very caution-heavy race here from IRP.
A lot of short runs, which I was really not expecting after the first two time slots that we had go official. Those races, first one went green all the way, and then the other one, I think we only had like 2 yellows, so kind of surprised by just how much yellow there was. Never really was able to get into a really long run, which I felt was where I had like the dominant car definitely would be on those long runs. On the restarts, the back end was a little sketchy coming out of the corners for a couple of laps until tires got heat back in them. But I managed to hang on and get the win.
Yeah, certainly the big talking point we kind of had was how do you manage the constant restarts, having to build that rhythm up. Maybe you've got a bit more insight you can throw on that one, especially given that you were kind of having to dictate when to launch, when to get back going here, and working your way around the track here.
For the restarts, it's just kind of jumping at a different point each time to try and not let the guys behind you kind of get an idea of where you're going to launch, to guarantee that I'm going to get as much distance as I can before turn one. And then on every restart, it's just trying to get through the first 2 turns as fast as you can without slipping the tires too much until you get that heat going, because that's when it's going to be the sketchiest. But once it's just trying to manage that heat buildup and get it up to temp, and once you get up to temp, you're good to go.
Yeah, it certainly seems to catch out a number of drivers here, especially early on in the runs as they tried to make moves lower and lower on the track, kind of slip sliding in the lower lanes off of turn 2 in particular. So certainly conquered it well yourself, obviously, since you've maintained the lead the whole way through the going here. You know the drill, though, Dylan. Friends, family, sponsors, anybody want to shout out, floor is yours.
Yeah, as usual, shout out to Get Good Racing, and shout out to the Sprint Car Cup. They run 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays.
Well, thank you, Dylan, for turning out. I think I've seen a couple of those sprint car races go official early on this week, like Monday night. So it's good to see that community getting a bit more of a push behind it. So we appreciate you doing that for them and coming out here each and every week in Indy NXT.
Yeah, it's great. We had a couple of time slots going official just kind of on random days. It's been really cool, actually, to see a bit more people joining into that and running those cars.
It's good to see, especially given that I believe those cars are now on the oldest tires in the iRacing service. I think we just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of the V6 tires on those cars, but it's good to see them still kicking, still as fun as ever to drive, and we hope that people keep turning out for those as well as these Indy NXT races. We appreciate you, Dylan. Thanks for coming out. Go celebrate.
Yep, have a good one, guys.
That'll do it here from IRP. Sophie, any closing thoughts in a very tumultuous race here? I think this is maybe the most cautions we've seen in one of these top split Indy NXT races on the ovals.
Yeah, for sure, Jacob. This is one of those races where, as a driver, I am regretting my decision to not grab a caution beer, because, whoa boy, that would have been a lot of pacing, a lot of breaking of the action. Hard to get a rhythm. But we saw some people who were really able to take advantage of that, like Crash Neon, Ryan Brown, able to make up those positions on the restarts. The movement really wasn't in the front of the pack. It was all in the mid pack. And there was definitely plenty of action. May have been daytime, but there was still plenty of fireworks out there.
Yeah, certainly a lot of action. Maybe not the action we necessarily want to see on the track for these drivers. A number of rather significant incidents, especially later in the going. But Dylan Vilashinsky comes out the winner here once more. Not an uncommon result in the slightest. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank Whiplash Ship Cams for providing the cameras here tonight, and hope you enjoy any of our continued coverage of either the IndyCar Oval Series from Talladega or the Area 51 IndyCar League from Atlanta here tonight. Mark Murphy will be on the call for that one in about 1 hour's time. Appreciate everybody for tuning out. We'll catch you next week for the Oval Series from New Hampshire. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.